In the vast expanse of history, few tales are as chilling as the story of the Khwarazmian Empire. It's a civilization that once stood as a beacon of Islamic culture and learning, which was utterly decimated by the Mongol horde under the leadership of the infamous Genghis Khan. Today, we delve into the chronicles of this tragic downfall, exploring how one terrible mistake led to the destruction of an entire empire. The story began with the rising sun over the endless plains of Central Asia, where the Mongols lived as nomadic tribes, skilled horsemen, but largely overlooked by the rest of the civilized world. However, under the leadership of a man destined to become a legend, Temujin, who later took the title of Genghis Khan, meaning oceanic ruler, the Mongols began to unite, conquer, and transform from a tribal society into a well-organized empire. Their rise to power threatened the established order, forcing the neighboring kingdoms to take notice. Among these kingdoms was the Khwarazmian Empire, a cultural melting pot situated at the crossroads of the Silk Road. For centuries, it had prospered through trade and intellectual exchange, becoming a center for scholarship and artistic achievement. The empire was at the height of its glory, enjoying a golden age under the rule of Sultan Muhammad II of the Inalchuq dynasty. But despite its opulence and cultural vibrancy, the Khwarazmian Empire harbored a dangerous flaw. Its leaders, blinded by their own grandeur, viewed themselves as superior to the surrounding powers, including the Mongols. In 1217, when news of the Mongol expansion reached the court of Sultan Muhammad, he saw it as a chance to assert his dominance rather than an opportunity for diplomacy or trade. The ensuing events would serve as a harsh reminder of the perils of such a mindset. As the Mongol hordes approached, the Khwarazmian Sultan received a diplomatic mission from Genghis Khan, seeking trade and alliance. Yet far from extending a welcoming hand, the Sultan chose mistrust and suspicion. Despite the peaceful intentions conveyed by the Mongols, the Sultan chose to imprison the entire caravan along with the letter of goodwill from Genghis Khan himself. This fateful decision would irrevocably alter the course of both empires. When Genghis Khan learned of this grave disrespect, he was furious. In response, he dispatched 3 ambassadors to the Sultan, demanding justice for his imprisoned men. The Khwarazmian Sultan, however, had already made up his mind. He ordered the execution of 1 envoy and shamed the remaining 2 by shaving their heads. Little did he know that this action would provoke the wrath of the Mongol Empire and seal the fate of his civilization. For the Khwarazmians, it seemed like a minor, almost inconsequential event. Just 3 ambassadors, after all. What harm could they do? But they failed to realize that they had just insulted the one person who would change their world forever. The ambassadors returned to Genghis Khan, bearing not only the grim tale of their ordeal, but also a tangible symbol of the Sultan's disrespect, the shaved head, a universal symbol of humiliation among the Mongols. Enraged by this flagrant disrespect, Genghis Khan rallied his warriors. He was determined to teach the Khwarazmians a lesson they would never forget. Thus began one of the most astonishing and terrifying campaigns in history. Mongol forces swept across Central Asia like a sudden storm, catching the Khwarazmians off guard. The Mongol army was a formidable force, disciplined, organized, and unmatched in mobility. Led by the brilliant military mind of Genghis Khan, they used innovative tactics and psychological warfare to devastating effect. They cut off supplies, employed spies, and encirclement tactics, and most importantly, exploited the weaknesses of their enemy. As the Mongol army advanced, city after city fell, each defeat more humiliating and brutal than the last. Bukhara, one of the jewels of the Islamic world, fell after a mere 10 days. Even the mighty city of Samarkand, with its magnificent mosques and madrasas, was not spared. Every city that resisted fiercely was met with the full force of the Mongol war machine. Its inhabitants suffered unimaginable horrors, massacres, tortures, and the destruction of their cultural treasures. But the Khwarazmian Sultan, Muhammad II, found himself in a desperate race for survival. He fled from city to city, always one step behind the advancing Mongol horde, stripped of his dignity and authority. Finally cornered on an island in the Caspian Sea, he was forced to watch his entire empire vanish into ashes, taking with it centuries of culture and achievement. So why did the Khwarazmian Empire fall so swiftly and completely? Why did a civilization that had reached such heights of cultural achievement suddenly collapse into ruin? It wasn't merely due to the military superiority of the Mongols, nor their innovative tactics and strategic brilliance. Although those factors played a significant role in the downfall of the Khwarazmian Empire, there was a deeper, more fundamental reason for its sudden demise: arrogance and ignorance. The Khwarazmian Sultan and his court were blinded by their own greatness. They failed to see the Mongols as equals or potential allies, dismissing them as uncivilized barbarians. This myopic view prevented any possibility of diplomacy or peaceful coexistence. Had the Sultan chosen to engage in dialogue, perhaps things could have turned out differently. But his fatal decision to imprison the Mongol caravan and humiliate its envoys sealed the fate of his empire. Furthermore, the Khwarazmians were caught in the throes of a rapidly changing world. The Mongols represented a new force in world politics, one that neither the Khwarazmians nor any other contemporary civilization was prepared for. While the Khwarazmian Empire was bogged down in its own decadence, the Mongols were rising, unifying, innovating, and conquering. They symbolized a new era in history, an era that the static and complacent Khwarazmians were ill-equipped to handle. The fall of the Khwarazmian Empire serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder that civilizations must adapt and evolve to survive. Failure to do so can lead to the most catastrophic of consequences. The arrogant dismissal of the Mongols as insignificant barbarians proved to be the undoing of the Khwarazmians, and the resulting Mongol invasion became a harbinger of sweeping changes across Eurasia. With the destruction of the Khwarazmians, the Mongols forged ahead, reshaping the political landscape of the ancient world. And despite the brutal efficiency with which the Mongols executed their plan of conquest, they weren't solely responsible for the total annihilation of the Khwarazmian Empire. It was the Sultan's own misguided policies and his failure to recognize the evolving dynamics of the world that paved the way for his civilization's downfall. In hindsight, the arrogance of the Khwarazmians stands out as a glaring flaw, a fatal mistake that triggered a chain of events leading to the destruction of their empire. It was a world shaken by the rise of a new power, a world where old ways of thinking and outdated perceptions could no longer hold. The Khwarazmian Empire's story reminds us that civilizations must stay relevant, that ignoring the signs of change can be catastrophic, and that the consequences of arrogance can reach unimaginable proportions. The Mongols may have been the instruments of destruction, but it was the Khwarazmian Sultan's blindness that truly set the stage for his empire's demise. The lessons of Khwarazm continue to resonate today, urging us to remain vigilant, adaptable, and respectful in an ever-changing world. There you have it, the incredible story of the Khwarazmian Empire, a tale not just of war and conquest, but of pride, arrogance, and the dangers of failing to respect one's enemy. If you enjoyed this episode and want more deep dives into history, subscribe to our channel and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Which moment from this episode surprised you the most? And what other historical tales would you like to see us cover? Thanks for joining us on this journey through time. Till next time, keep asking questions and keep learning.